And I think that people who are quote unquote down and out, who are in largely service work, are underthanked. Sometimes they live thankless lives unless we create an intervention, which we can do. It does not take much time, but it could make a world of it could change someone's day and maybe their life.
Welcome to Great Practice, Great Life by Atticus Incorporated. What if you could hang out with successful small and solo law firm attorneys, ask them about their successes and failures, their business strategies and mindset habits, then take an insight or two to guide your own growth in your practice? Each week, Steve Riley shares an in-depth look at how to work less while maintaining high client service standards, reduce your stress levels while growing your income, and find time to make changes when you are time-starved. Steve is a lawyer coach for more than 20 years and a former trial attorney. His goal is to provide strategies to help you balance your lives and grow your practice. Now, here's Steve.
I think gratitude is a counterbalance, but I think gratitude is a learned counterbalance. And Brother Curtis, you may have more thoughts on this than I do, but most of the reading I've done about how the human brain works is that the human brain is not designed for happiness. The human brain is designed for survival. And those of us over the past, from our great ancestors, have a really highly developed amygdala. So we can distinguish threat, fear, things that would put our lives at risk. And I think people that are not conscious that their brain has one primary function, which is not happiness, not joy, not learning. The primary function of the brain is to keep the body alive, to keep the human alive. And so the brain is always scanning, looking for risk. This is why social media, news, bad news works so well, why clickbait works so well. The 10 ways that things will kill you today, the important stuff you have to know. Your amygdala is trained to look for threats, so it's constantly looking for threats. And I've had conversations around anxiety. We've had conversations around despair. We've had conversations around loneliness. And I think gratitude is in itself a conscious, strategic practice that one must develop. And that's I think you have to cultivate it, you have to learn it, and you have to embrace it. You have to exercise it and own it, because your brain's not trained that way. Your brain just wants to keep you alive, and it could care less about whether you're happy. It just, if you're going to be alive for X many years, it's far better to perhaps go through a joyful, happy life that gives you meaning and purpose than it is one where you're just constantly worried about threats and stress and anxiety. And I think a lot of people aren't really conscious. I don't think a lot of people realize that's how the brain's wired. And to actually spend some time to say, whoa. While the brain is kind of a great operating system, I can actually pivot it. I can have it scan. I can have it learn that really what I'm looking for is things to be happy about, things to have gratitude about. Honestly, I think most people that I've met in my life, once they kind of get used to looking for the bad things, the default software programming that the amygdala looks for, that becomes a habitual process. You probably know people that when you talk to them, they begin with a complaint, whatever the complaint is. Like they're looking for something to complain about. Actually flip this whole thing is to work, I think, counter to how the human brain is designed to work, counter to how people's habits are, counter to how their social relationships are, counter to how some family relationships are. I have some family relationships, and they complain for about 10 or 15 minutes about whatever. And I ask them a question. So what's great about your life right now? Or what are you happy about right now? Or what are you grateful for right now? It is a game-stopping question. It's like I did something really bad in the middle of the party, like a major social faux pas, so there's a lot here, and you've committed a tremendous part of your life to gratitude. gratitude and develop gratitude practices. So I want to set up that long question to ask you a couple of things about gratitude for the audience and for our listeners. The first question is, when did you become conscious that you personally had a choice between dealing with your amygdala in control and looking and scanning for bad things, and you consciously becoming aware that you could choose to develop a gratitude practice, an attitude of gratitude, a mindset around gratitude? When did that happen for you?
Steve, I would change the verbs. And rather than answer your question, when did that happen to me when I got in touch with gratitude? It's when did I realize it? Because I think it happened to me at a very, very young age, much earlier than I could have understood in any way, because I was such a small child. What I awakened to as an adult, I think in my 20s, was that life is a gift and not a given. That it is full of enormous challenges and despair and injustice and beauty and wonder and joy and laughter. I got in touch with life being more than who I am and what I can manufacture in and of my own being. I would say, rather than to speak from the place of the brain, whose hard drive is to survive, I would speak from the place of the heart, whose deepest longing is to thrive. I think you're not thriving if you're not surviving, but I think that you can have food on the table and some dollars in the bank, and you would meet the criterion for surviving, but you're not thriving and life is not meaningful. You may be in deep despair. And what I know of people who are self-identified as being privileged, that if they are not thriving, they are the most desperate people I've experienced, because they've got it all and it's not enough. There's something missing. So my locus is to speak out of the heart rather than the head. And when I say heart, I'm just speaking about, I think the heart's informed by what's going on in our mind, but our being, what gives us life, and what gives us meaning in life, is more than what we can conjure up and understand cognitively.
When did you have that realization? Because you've had two or three very interesting conversations with me. One around, you knew at an early age that your life was to be about kindness. That's who you identify as. That's how you show up. That's really who you are. Kind of your whole being is just a kind, caring human being. When did you have the realization about gratitude? When did you have that experience, that insight, the epiphany that caused you to pivot? Do you recall? Was it a moment? Was it something that you read? Was it something you heard? Was it something that happened to you? Do you recall that?
Well, I would call kindness and gratitude, I'd call them cousins, because the expression of kindness give others cause for gratitude. So I think they're very closely related. You know, I can't quite remember what my epiphany was when I awakened to this, but it's made a world of difference to be oriented around gratitude and see that if you're holding out for the experience of happiness that comes because what? I don't know. You got more clients, bigger paycheck, bigger house, traveling to some wonderful place, eating a great dinner. I mean, whatever. If you're waiting for some kind of external experience to prompt gratitude, I would reverse that. I'd say it's not happiness that makes us grateful. It's the experience and practice of gratitude that makes us happy, that gives our life meaning, sustainability, inner sustainability, hope, joy, wonder.
Well, you said the operative word. I want to spend a moment with one key word: practice. You said practice of gratitude. And I want people to listen to that word, because what you described for some people are what I would call reactive moments of gratitude, reactive moments of joy, spontaneous things that happen. They're like, wow, that was really great. I didn't anticipate that happening. Or, like you said, a great trip, a great meal, whatever it may be. That was really great. So you have this reaction. What you're talking about, and I hate to use these terms, but you're talking about a strategic practice that requires someone to make a decision about how they live their life. And I think for me, it's a core decision that one makes. And from there, the thriving starts to occur. The striving reduces, but the thriving starts to occur. But it's a conscious practice. And it's one of the things that I always appreciate about you, I always enjoy about you, is the constant gratitude practices that you've developed that sustain you as a person, as quite frankly, a force to be reckoned with in your own way. But at some point you made a shift, if you can remember. It's maybe so long ago and so powerful. It's just part of your life. But let's talk about the word practice, because you have practices in your life to sustain spirituality, to sustain kindness. Talk to me about what practice means when you say that word. I know what it means as a lawyer. What does it mean to you when it comes to gratitude?
And that's the first thing that comes to my mind, Steve, what you just said. You know what it means as a lawyer. I would say for people in the Atticus family who are psychotherapists, who have a practice of psychotherapy, or who are financial advisors, who have a practice in that crucial realm of advising. All of these disciplines have the word practice as part of their vocation. Why do lawyers talk about practice? Why is that a word in the legal vocabulary?
I haven't looked it up, but I think there's, for me, three elements of practice. Number one is a commitment to be better today than what I was yesterday, and be even better tomorrow than what I was today. So for me, I think part of it is a commitment of becoming and developing in that skill set, in that profession, in that way of thinking better. So a commitment. Two, and I'm going to use this word on purpose, a skill set. A skill set that really has you improve those skills. And those skill sets have certain practices in them, certain things that you do daily to be better than what you were the day before. And the third thing that I think is interesting to me, and sometimes I see lawyers sometimes lose sight of this, is that we are in the service profession. And while we do operate businesses, our businesses are in service of caring for someone else where they are in need. And they're in need of our services for whatever reason, but they're in need, whether they've been injured, whether they're going through something terrible like a divorce, whether they're going through something wonderful like an adoption. They're going through something, but they're in need of our guidance, just like our clients or our members are in need of your guidance. So I think for me, it's first and foremost a commitment. Second is a ongoing development of skill set. And three is clarity of other, a clarity of being in service to another. This is one of the challenges I've seen over the years with some of the members of our clients. Our clients, they kind of get to a point where they get stuck in their development because they're really in a position where they're looking to be served, not to be of service. They're looking for, how can you help me? How can you give me more of what I want and need? And failing miserably to being of service and seeing that being of service is actually probably the most valuable thing they could do to get to the next level in their life and practice. What are your thoughts about that? That would be my definition of practice. And you probably have done a lot more thinking about this than I have, and longer, deeper.
Well, I don't know, but it's really quite beautiful. And I'm thinking what you just said, you can't speak for psychotherapists or your financial advisors in your Atticus umbrella, but I'd say what you just said, I could use that as a working definition for how I'm speaking about practice too. It's really quite beautiful. It certainly is informed by intentionality. And it's informed by some sense that there's something more. If you live into this, there's something more. There's something more that will develop inside of you, that you will be more fully able and alive. And on a good day, when you're not overwhelmed with what you're being called to do by clients, that you will be more able to be of service to them. I think that one of the reasons why, if you're in a helping profession, an intensive helping profession, which those in the Atticus family are, and I live in that, my own version of that too, is you may well not be thanked, or you're not going to be thanked enough. And I could even imagine for some in the Atticus family, there will be some gratitude, it may or may not be expressed, and also resentment that they actually had to avail themselves of your services. And they resent that both because it's cost money, it may have required exposure of who and what they are, which runs counter to the kind of image that they've quaffed in the public and even perhaps in front of their own mirror. It's surfaced maybe fear or anxiety, which ends up getting outed when they come looking for help, when someone comes looking for help. And so I can imagine that it will happen a number of times that gratitude will not be expressed, or it will not be expressed very adequately. And so I make a pitch for one of the many benefits from living gratefully is living in gratitude. It's not to say that your thanking me for something is unnecessary or unmeaningful, but I'm not living my life on the take. Because from my experience, if I'm living my life on the take, waiting, needing to be thanked, I'm going to be sorely disappointed, and I may even become embittered. Living my life gratefully means I'm just teeming with gratitude. And it keeps me, rather than going down the alley of resentment or bitterness towards someone, it keeps my heart tender, not as a rock, but as a kind of open, compassionate vessel where I can use what I've come to know about this person and know very well why they're not in a place to thank. Rather than being embittered or disappointed or empty, I'm compassionate and I'm not shopping for their gratitude.
That's an interesting point. The shopping for gratitude is not really gratitude.
It's something.
Yeah, I think if you're shopping for gratitude, if you're shopping for a thank you, if you're shopping for some form of acknowledgement, you're looking for validation.
You're shopping for dignity. You're shopping for what you didn't get from your father. I mean, I don't know what you're looking for, but I think it's a setup for disappointment,
Yeah,
disappointment or bitterness.
yeah. So I'm with you. So and that's an important distinction, because if people are thinking, well, I get gratitude when people thank me, that's once again a reactive response, and that you're trying to be emotionally validated by somebody else. What you're talking about as a practice, and that's what I want people to hear as a practice, is it's self-generated by you. It's not dependent on another human being expressing gratitude to you. You're your own power plant. You are a power plant of gratitude that you've created based on your own practices, on your own habits, and your own life experience, for lack of a better word, Brother Curtis. Is that a fair statement?
Well, it's a generous statement, Steve. I think because I'm a monk, I'm very much in touch with my abject need for a higher power. I mean, I can sound good to you on this and talk about how I want to be living and the practice of my life, which is informed by gratitude. Indeed, it is, except when it isn't. uh, and I'm stumbling along like everyone else is. But I understand. I understand that my life is informed by a higher power, which is larger than who I am. And I really advocate for people to get in touch with what is their higher power, because I think it needs to be bigger than one's practice of life or practice of a professional vocation, because life has a terminus. We're goners someday, and it either will happen quickly or it will happen by diminishment. For me, I think maybe it's going back to the earlier question you asked. I became aware at quite a young age that there was something more than what I could muster, manufacture. There was a higher power. There was a higher power that I was in touch with and that I needed to claim, uh, covet, and incorporate into my practice because I was not enough. So you compliment me with my practice, which indeed it is when it is. But I'm not a monk because I'm full of virtue. I'm a monk because I'm a man of need. And that need is informed by tapping a higher power.
It's an interesting way of positioning what it means to be a monk. It's a very, very powerful way of positioning what it means to be a monk. Is there anything else you want to say about that before I ask you another question? Being a monk, being in the practice of being a monk, being in a monastery, being in relationship with a higher power where you've structured your life in a particular way.
My becoming a monk was informed by several things, but one was that I wanted my practice of life to be more focused. And I use the image of a of a hose in your garden. The difference it is between putting a spigot on the end of a hose, which will stream a kind of focus of water, or maybe a splay of water, in contrast to a hose that's simply turned on, which is just streaming water, maybe at great velocity. And I wanted to live a much more focused life. You don't have to become a monk to do that, but it's one way to do that. And that's where I've ended up, in a monastery.
Well, let's keep that analogy going, or metaphor, because one of the gifts that you bring to me and our community is your gratitude practices. So I want to talk about it just for a minute and then let you run for a little bit on it. So if you're listening to this and you're going, okay, I get it. Gratitude's a good thing. I get it that gratitude takes work. I don't think you get gratitude for free. I think you earn gratitude through your practices, and I think it's a conscious choice. So I think if you're listening to this and you're like going, well, I'm willing to try it. Now, in my experiments with gratitude, in my experiments in my own life, and I joke with lawyers about this. I say, you may not want to do gratitude practices. You may not, because the lawyers are worried about losing their edge. They're like, I'm going to lose my edge. Being angry gives me my strength, which is just silly because it gives them resentment. It doesn't give them compassion. It doesn't give them empathy. It doesn't give them love. It doesn't give them those powers. It gives them kind of, evil powers. So as I look at this and I think about this, you go through a choice of saying, okay, if I'm trying to cultivate and learn gratitude, I'm going to make a choice about it. I'm going to make a decision. And in your case, you made a focused decision to put yourself in a monastic practice in a monastery to focus your living. And you've been doing that for 40 years. For someone who's listening to this and going, I'm tired of kind of like allowing my brain to run the show, I'm going to choose to develop some simple basic gratitude practices as an experiment. And I'm going to tell that listener who's listening right now, going, well, I'll try it. I'm going to say there's two things. Number one, you're going to have to develop a habit around it. You have to first develop a habit. And here's the good news. If you start to find yourself experiencing gratitude, and then you start to feel happiness slipping in, and then you have moments of joy and bliss, and it makes you uncomfortable, you can always dial back. You can always dial back. You can turn on the news and watch the news for a while. There's a lot of things. You can hang out with some people. I can give you some names of people you can hang out with. They'll squeeze that joy out of you for a little bit, So a lot of people are like, well, what happens if I become continuously happy? What happens if I experience joy and bliss? I'm like, it's okay. You can dial back. You can just kind of trim it back a little bit. You don't have to be happy. Lawyers can only tolerate so much joy in their life, and then they get annoyed with it. One of the challenges that you have in growing your practice, trying to make more money, trying to have a great life, is how do you stay focused and not frantic? It's a big challenge. So for a moment, I just want to talk to you about one of the tools that we recommend. It's transformative for anyone that adopts it and uses it. And it's called the My Great Life Focus. Now, for some of us, we might call it the My Great Life Planner, but it's not just for anyone. It is designed specifically by lawyers for lawyers. It's really a strategic focusing tool to help you take control of your time and focus, and helps you focus on what matters most to you, your great practice and your great life. This is how it works. Inside of this is a focusing concept that helps you stay focused on the most important goals for you. It actually coaches you on things like prompts and questions, and it gives you an actionable plan how to achieve them. The goal here is for you to produce high impact results, not another ever-ending to-do list. You have to-do lists in your task management in your CRMs. You have to-do lists being flung at you. Really what you're trying to do is get focused and decide what are the most important things to you. And this tool is designed to help you gain better control over your time and focus, strike the balance between your work and personal life, help you elevate your marketing, help you build a more focused team and improve your strategic delegation. It helps you boost your cash flow and profitability while creating the life you enjoy. If you look and you're a user of the My Great Life Focus, you know every week you get to do the cash flow focuser. So I know we talked about this tool in other episodes. You've heard a lot of our members talk about this tool. Some of you are like going, oh my God, it's a paper planner. Yeah, it's paper. And there's a reason for it being paper, because I want you to step away from the screens. I want you to take a moment to make good decisions and decide what does a great week, a great day look like to you. So you can get the planner. I'm going to put a link in the show notes. You can get a subscription. If you're a member, it's included. So take advantage of the member. And if you start a subscription, I'm just going to tell you, it will change your life. I've been using it for 20 years, and I just cannot imagine my life without this particular tool. With that, I'm going to encourage you to get started building that great practice and great life by using the most foundational transformative tool, which is the My Great Life Focus. So how would you advise someone to say, let's start small, let's start crawling before we start walking and start running? Where would you go? You made a decision. I want to have more gratitude in my life, Brother Curtis. How do I do it? What's your advice?
I would say to awaken to each new day as a gift and not as a given. And take nothing for granted from the moment that you awaken, maybe by alarm, maybe you just simply wake up. And when I say take nothing for granted, I mean to start exactly where you are. You're in bed. You have a bed, maybe even a pillow. But you've made it through the night. You haven't been bombed in the night. You haven't been attacked in the night. and you're thinking of getting out of your bed. And so, with this amazing gift of muscular orchestration, you can actually make physical your desire to get out of bed. You can put your legs over the edge, and you may have a sense of balance that you can stand up without assistance. And you may be thinking that you want to go to your bathroom because you want a glass of water. You have a bathroom with indoor plumbing, and you have potable water, and you have the manual dexterity to grasp a glass which you can put under a tap. In which tap you use, it could be cold or hot. And with amazing muscular dexterity, which not everyone has, you can bring this glass to your lips and take a sip of water, which you can swallow without assistance. You have a mirror in front of you, and you can look into the mirror, which is to say you have eyesight. Maybe the alarm that awakened you reminds you that you can hear. I mean, by the time you've left your bathroom sink, you can be in touch with a world of provision and things which you have taken for granted and not in gratitude. And you could get carried away with that. I mean, you haven't even gotten beyond your bathroom, you know? I mean, you could just chew your way through the day with just.
Let's stay there for a second, because you're like emotionally moved by this. And so, anyone watches, if anyone sees this on YouTube or watches the video, I mean, you went through a gratitude experience there where you woke up, you got present to being alive, you started going through your day and started acknowledging everything that was there to be grateful for. Everything. It was a beautiful moment. Thank you for sharing it. It was pretty amazing. I've heard you talk about this before, but I saw you just get really grounded in the beauty of being alive. And what you said, life is
It's a gift. It's a gift and not a given, I
yeah,
would
the
say.
gift. I mean, I was just moved by what the gift was. Like, you were very, very clear it was a gift. If everyone woke up like that, assuming they can continue that momentum throughout their day, it's pretty intentional. So your first practice is to wake up and appreciate the gift of being alive, the gift of mobility, the gift of sight, the gift of hearing, the gift of where you're living, the gift of even a pillow, and just really appreciating what you have, which is a pretty profound way of waking up in the morning. I mean, most people, in my case, I wake up and go, why does that hurt? When did that start hurting? And how come I can't see? And why does that hurt when I'm walking? Why is this now hurting? What's this on the floor? What's going on here? And going into the bathroom and going, thank God I can't see, because what's on the other side looking back at me is not something I want to quite see anymore. So I'm listening to you, and it's pretty much the opposite. Like I get up and it's like not a life of gratitude. It's like, oh, why does that hurt? That should not be hurting. So first off, thank you, because I'm going to start a new practice, and it's going to take a while to reverse my habit of waking up into why does that hurt? Anything you want to say about that before I ask you another question, Brother Curtis?
I will also get in touch immediately with agency.
Say more about that.
That I have awakened to a new day, and I may be alive for as much as an entire another day. And I not only am full of gratitude for my own life, but I want to be an agent for giving cause for others to know life as a gift also.
Okay, so that's a very powerful practice. Let's do that again, really slow for the kids at home. Say that again.
When I awaken, and I awaken in gratitude, surprise, delight, wonder for what is within arm's reach. And I have arms that have the manual dexterity to reach. I mean, it's just, I don't think you can get too now on this. It's just right there, where you can start claiming gratitude. I'm at the same time in touch with my own agency, that not only am I grateful, and for so many reasons, including unearned privilege of things that inform my life, but I also claim a commitment to agency that insofar as I've wakened to another day and may have as much as an entire another day to be alive, and some days going to be it. But so long as I'm given life this day, I want to be an agent for helping other people know gratitude in their own life. Because so many people don't live with gratitude, either because they've missed it, they simply maybe are taking life for granted, or because there's suffering in many different forms. It can happen. Their suffering is so egregious that they can't get in touch with any gratitude at all.
So the second practice that you have developed is where you seeing yourself as a person who can be a catalyst for helping others appreciate gratitude in their life. So you actually, your second practice is saying, I've got another day of helping other people, and I can do so with gratitude and be an agent for awareness in helping other people. That's how I hear that. Is that a reasonable characterization of that?
Thank you. So a word I could use for that is a mission. I'm on a mission.
Perfect. A monk on a mission. Sounds like a great title for the podcast. A monk on a mission. And these are profound practices. So as people are listening, it gives them an opportunity first to wake up and look and become present and aware to what they can be grateful for, then become present and aware of where they can contribute. Now, contribution in itself is a position of gratitude. One of the things I try and do in our community, and it's hard to do, Brother Curtis, is we have people that sometimes come to Atticus and they're takers. And they believe that if they give us money, then they can take what they want or need. And then we have people that come to the Atticus community that are contributors. And in the group programs, my goal is to weed out the takers and put more contributors in. And so if I get a group of 25 or 30 contributors in a group, or like I had a couple of days ago, 400 contributors in a group, it's magical. If you put in takers, even a small percentage of takers into a community of givers, they start to subtract in a very powerful way. They start to divide the group in a very powerful way. The practice of contribution is in itself, I think, a gratitude practice. How can I help other people? Would you agree, disagree, or is it just part of your life now? Can you see it as a divisible practice?
I'm with you in that I think that gratitude, our living our life gratefully, include our being on a mission to help other people find cause to be grateful. I don't think that what will elicit gratitude in others requires everything. So I was years ago, I was visiting my younger sister, and we'd spent a weekend together, I with her husband and their children, And my sister and I are very close, and we were kind of figuring out family dynamics and working out kind of all kinds of strategies and whatever. And we don't always have the same take on things, so we were kind of bumping up against each other um, in a very lovely way. It's just because we know each other so well. I was leaving. I was in the car. I was going to drive away from there down their driveway, and my sister came up, knocked on the car window. I rolled down the window, and she leaned in and kissed me on my ear and said, "I adore you."
Oh,
Now, that was an expression of gratitude and more and more. But I was floating. I was just floating. And that act took what, 5 seconds? So it's not like even some of the problems we identified were all fixed. But I was in a different place. And a lot of that was informed by my awareness that I was not alone, that someone was with me, that someone was with me. And I think that gratitude has that component when we're being a kind of agency or channel to others, coming from our own gratitude to giving them cause for gratitude, that we're making a point of connection with them. Because so many people live lives that are isolated. And I think some of the most isolated people are people who, by profession, have got to look and act like they're not isolated, that they're on top of things, that they're peachy. And those are people who suffer the most.
that was interesting. I love the story. What's your sister's name?
Cindy.
Oh, what a great name. What a great name.
She's a great sister. I adore her.
Clearly, she adores you. So the great thing about this is that it was a simple act of expression of gratitude and love that changed everything. You still tell the story. I mean, how simple, but how powerful. So it's a good practice, I guess, for people that are listening to express love, express gratitude, express acknowledgement of other people as a gratitude practice itself. Let me ask you, I got a couple other questions. One of the things that I've done in the past personally is I do a gratitude journal. Now, my journal is simple. I call it Big Fig. I begin the day in gratitude and I finish in gratitude. So I have to remind myself, beginning gratitude, finishing gratitude. I know it's simple. It's simple. Some people think it's a cookie or something, but like a big fig, like Fig Newton cookie or something. But I found for me personally, it anchors me because if I start the day in gratitude and I complete the day in gratitude, it ramps up the day and closes my day as a practice. So it's like a closing practice for me for the day. Are there any similar practices that you've either advised or encouraged other people to adopt in their lives to embrace gratitude or express gratitude or develop gratitude?
Well, first, I herald what you're doing. I think these bookends of the day make such a difference. How we awaken to the new day, what you heard me speak about, but you obviously know your own version of this, awakening to the new day in gratitude, and closing the day with gratitude. I think another really helpful practice that we can hone is just noticing. Notice. So notice what is wondrous, beautiful, amazing, what your senses pick up, eyes, ears, nose, touch, which catches your heart's attention. Notice and let those prompts elicit gratitude. And I think the day can be filled with that because there's prompts everywhere. And I think that getting in touch with these prompts throughout the day will counterweight the things for which you're not grateful. And there are things for which, in the moment, we're not grateful, I think, for most people, certainly true for me. But having a counterweight of gratitude will make my experience of life, the weight of life, very different. I think also expressing gratitude, expressing it to others, I think is very good for us because it's a manifestation of our not taking life for granted. That what is happening in my life, what is coming my way, whether it's my work or my leisure or it can be what I got in the cupboard, it can be anything. Expressing gratitude knows that I'm not the ultimate source of everything. And I do think that we cannot thank people enough. Having said that, I think if we're constantly shopping for gratitude, we're going to be disappointed and we may become embittered because it's not going to happen enough. But having said that, I think it's a hugely wonderful practice to thank people. And I would say there are two categories of people who are not thanked nearly enough. One category are people whom we may call down and out, whose life is largely service, who are working maybe without much fulfillment and maybe without much dignity to enable other people's lives and to earn them a paycheck with which they can live their life. But they may live with very little experience of gratitude. People that are checkout clerks, people that are cleaning bathrooms in restaurants or in airports, or people who are picking up our garbage, people who are cleaning up after us, healthcare professionals. Doctors are massively underthanked. they're almost as underthanked as lawyers. Expressing gratitude, I think, can make such a world of difference. It can be like the version of the kiss that my sister gave me to my ear, And I think that people who are quote unquote down and out, who are in largely service work, are underthanked. Sometimes they live thankless lives unless we create an intervention, which we can do. It does not take much time, but it could make it could change someone's day and maybe their life. People who are down and out are underthanked. And the other category of people who are underthanked are people who are up and out. And these are people who are leaders, people who, in some ways, the better they function, the more predictably wonderful they are, the more astute their leadership is, the more they are going to be taken for granted. And it's not as if people aren't grateful for them, but they're less and less going to express that gratitude. Because like Steve, look at what you do with Atticus. I wouldn't say thank you to you because surely everything you dot, 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 dot. You're probably a case in point. The people are simply not going to express gratitude, not because they aren't grateful, but they think, who am I? Who am I to say, thank you to you. And so I think people who are leaders are oftentimes up and out, and they are not thanked. In some ways, the more competent, predictably wonderful they are, the less thanked they're going to be. So I would say, look for your target audiences of people who come across your path in the course of the day, and be very generous with gratitude. It can be a bouquet of flowers, but it can just be the expression of just a simple sentence of gratitude. Thank you so much for. I also think it's very powerful to go back in memory in our life to experiences which are still alive in our memory, experiences which were wonderful and which we know were formative and for which we're very grateful. But we actually may be more grateful now than we were at the time. We say how significant that was, how significant that Mrs. Doris Briley, my 10th grade English teacher, told me I could do it. I thanked her, but she gave me so much, and I'm so aware of that now. So to review, to recollect, to retrieve and also to redeem. And by redeem, I mean there are things in our past which at the time we were not grateful, either because they were hurtful or because we just dismissed them. They were disappointing, or we just missed it, which we can look back on and see that made all the difference. So to get in touch with our memory, and then what to do with our memory, I think first of all is simply to bring it to our consciousness. And then is there some way to express this? So I was just reading a manuscript of a book a friend has written, and she wrote in the opening pages a dedication to several people for whom she is so grateful. They're long deceased, but she's so grateful. So there may be a way to codify our gratitude for people in our past that we are deeply grateful for, people that we were grateful at the time for, but we're even more grateful than we knew we were, and things and people for which we're grateful now, which we weren't at the time. So how to express that, get in touch with it, and how to express that. And, I have called people, I've made appointments with people, I've written letters to people, I've written down things that I cannot send to people because they're dead. But it was the best thing I could do to express gratitude that was either unexpressed, unacknowledged, unexpressed, or underexpressed. I think that's hugely powerful. It's also can be a channel of hope for us, because I think that, like I'm saying, I don't go shopping for gratitude. I think that we're not going to be thanked very much in life. And some of the people who don't thank us actually don't realize the gift that we have given to them. But they will. They will. They will. And I know that's the case because I look at my own heart and say, oh, wow. And my father, I can picture my father. I'm out on the street with a bicycle with training wheels. I can picture the day my father, I can picture this. I was maybe 3 years old. I can still remember this. My father told me that we could take off the training wheels. I don't call him. He said we could take those off and that I could do it. And I did. And it just, it opened up the possibility of I could do it. So I think the use of memory is so powerful with gratitude. And I'll name one other thing. And that is to receive gratitude. Having said, I think that most of the time, I think we're underthanked. Some of this is people's callousness. More of it is people just don't realize what it took for us to do what maybe even seems natural. It just kind of flows out of us. Let me tell you, it doesn't just happen. But they don't know that. They don't know. They never will. But some people do know it, and they're going to express gratitude. And I think it's doubly important to receive their gratitude. Because it's important for them to express their gratitude. It's important for them. And secondly, I think it's important for us to receive their gratitude, because it will, or it should, prompt "you're welcome." And my understanding is "you're welcome" means that what you've received from me came from a large pot, and there's more, and there's more. There's more that I can give and want to give to you and to others. There's this beautiful thing which you'll know about. You go to a ball game where your team wins. You go to a play, go to a concert hall, hear a symphony. You've given a playbill for wherever these places, everything's going to happen. At the end of the event, at the end of the performance, there's something that happens, and it's not in the playbill, but it's going to happen. I guarantee you it's going to happen. At the end of that performance, whatever it is, there's going to be applause. And it may be uproarious. It's going to be applause. Now, why is that happening? It may be a little bit because of how our mothers raised us. Say thank you. I was always prompted by my mother to say thank you to so-and-so, say thank you, say thank you. Some of that is we've been taught good manners. But most of that applause is about expressing gratitude, because gratitude completes the experience. Gratitude brings the experience home. Gratitude completes the experience. It's unimaginable to leave a concert hall mute with no applause. It would not happen. It cannot happen. It will not happen. It's unimaginable because the experience will not be complete. And I would say that's a kind of a paradigm of life, that until we're in touch with the kind of regularity of both seeing, knowing, claiming, sometimes being humbled by gratitude and then expressing it, life will not be complete.
That's very powerful. One of our practices, meaning you and I, is that you usually complete one of our conversations with a guided meditation. Are you up for it?
Would be glad to do that. I was thinking you might ask for that, and so I have something in front of me that I'll draw on. It comes from the Zen tradition.
Okay.
The Zen tradition comes the story of sometime a disciple asked the holy woman named Sono what needed to be done to put the human heart at rest. And the holy woman Sono responded, every morning and every evening, whenever anything happens to you, she said, just keep on saying, thank you for everything. I have no complaint whatsoever. Every morning and every evening, whenever anything at all happens to you. Sono said, just keep on saying, thank you for everything. I have no complaint whatsoever. The man did as he was instructed for an entire year, but then came back to Sono disappointed that nothing had really changed in his life. What you told me to do failed, he said. What should I do now? And Sono said immediately, thank you for everything. I have no complaint whatsoever. And on hearing these words, the man was able to open his spiritual eye, and he returned home with great joy.
I love it. So let's close with the following thing. Brother Curtis, thank you for everything. Once again, you've contributed to our community. You have opened up my spiritual eye and have given great agency to other people that will hear this episode and appreciate that life is a gift and not a given because of the work that you're doing. So thank you, Brother Curtis.
You're so welcome, Steve. My honor. My honor.
Thanks for joining this week's episode of Great Practice, Great Life. Please tune in weekly to get the next episode. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, like, and don't hesitate to share it with a friend who you think this episode could help. With that, thanks, and I hope you enjoy next week's episode.